Hey everyone! Today I've got a story about how my mom and mother in law tried to break up a family. If you're newlyweds with a rough plan for the next few years, where having a child comes after getting your own place, stick to that plan and don't listen to anyone else. My husband and I did things differently and regretted it many times, but now there's no turning back. About 3 years have passed since we started our own family and tied the knot. Back then, we wanted to take it slow, live for ourselves for a while, earn more money, and buy our own place. It seemed like a common plan, but we couldn't stick to it. Parents intervened. Both our moms, mine and my husband's, are single and lost their husbands some time ago. Right after the wedding, they started hinting that it would be nice to give them grandchildren. The young parents have it much easier. My mother-in-law said, "You'll be on the same wavelength with the child as they grow up. Plus, you can pay off the mortgage earlier. First, give me a grandchild, and then you can work as much as you want. We'll help with the little one. It'll be like a breath of fresh air for us," my mom pleaded. These persuasions might have been unsuccessful, but one unplanned event changed everything. I must mention that we were using contraception, but apparently it failed because I had a delay. At first, I took a test and it was positive. I couldn't believe my eyes. So I decided to see a doctor, hearing that tests can often give false positives. "Congratulations, you're pregnant. I heard the appointment." At that moment, I didn't know whether to cry or be happy, considering we had completely different plans. At home, I told I told my husband the news, and then our moms. They were strongly against an abortion. "You'll be able to have children later, and you'll regret it your whole life," they both almost said in unison. Listening to them, I decided I would go through with the pregnancy. By that time, we had managed to save up a small amount and decided to take out a mortgage. I have to give credit, the future grandmas generously helped us with the down payment. The monthly payments weren't too hard on the pocket, but the realization of how many years we had to keep paying the mortgage weighed heavily on us. Then we decided to pay a higher amount each month. Then we decided to pay a higher amount each month than the required payment. It turned out to be the right decision, and now we can manage everything more easily. My pregnancy went relatively smoothly, without complications, except for the constant calls from my mother-in-law and my mom. I was just at the store. My mom happily chirped on the phone. "Bought such a wonderful set for the little girl. Everything is so tiny and cute. Also found a beautiful blanket for the baby's first outing." Right before my mom's call, my mother-in-law, who was also constantly shopping in children's stores, would call me. I thought that if they combined their enthusiasm, they might at least leave me alone for a while. And that's what happened. They started going to stores together, and I finally had some peace and could focus on the household chores that had piled up. At that time, we had the task of renovating the new apartment, ordering and assembling furniture. In short, my husband and I had plenty to do, and we didn't notice how my mom and mother in law became friends. Time went by. The moment of childbirth was approaching, and our future grandma buddies would visit us together, showering me and the little one with gifts. After that, they would go about their business together, which included shopping trips, visits to the hair salon, beauty salons, or the theater. My husband and I were very happy with this turn of events because before, our moms called us every day complaining about boredom, got upset if we couldn't come to their place every day, but now they manage just fine without our presence. Closer to the due date, my mom and mother in law shifted into full on invasion mode. You could even say they practically lived in our apartment. They were so afraid of missing the moment when labor started. The grandmas were over the moon with happiness when they found out their granddaughter was born. They even cried tears of joy during the hospital discharge. The first week went as promised. I was recovering after giving birth to our daughter, and the moms took turns pampering their granddaughter. However, over time, their visits became less frequent. About 6 months later, I started receiving calls from my boss at work. Before going on maternity leave, I had promised to return after 6 months. At that time, they trusted me with several projects, the deadlines of which coincided with my planned return to work. Remembering my mom's promise that she would take care of the baby after it was born so that I could work, I called her and asked if she could spend some time with the little one. I planned to share with her everything about taking care of the baby while I was at home, so that when I returned to work, there wouldn't be any questions. Oh, I'd love to, but I'm not feeling very well right now. Probably getting sick. I better not risk it. I'd better not risk it. I don't want to accidentally infect the granddaughter, my mom hesitantly mumbled over the phone. I turned to my mother in law, but to my surprise, I didn't see the same enthusiasm as before. Though she agreed to spend some time with her granddaughter, it wasn't with the same energy. The next morning, my mother in law called. Guess what? Yesterday, Mirzik, the cat, came home all beaten up and scratched. He looks scary. I'll take him to the vet now. Won't be able to come to you today. Sorry. All right, situations happen, and I approached everything with understanding, asking my husband to stop by her place after work and offer assistance. When my husband came home, he was puzzled and said that the cat looked perfectly normal, with no scratches whatsoever. We decided not to make a big deal out of it and avoid escalating any conflicts. Throughout the next month, our moms came up with various excuses and stubbornly avoided helping me, even though they had sworn to help with the baby before she was born. I thought it was time to have an open conversation with my mom, and glad it was time to have an open conversation with my mom and clarify everything. Why do you always find reasons not to help me with the baby? Both you and my mother in law were asking for a granddaughter, saying I could work. I get calls from work almost every day. They're expecting me in the office, and I can't give them a clear answer because you're let. My mom's response infuriated and hurt me. She said she's not at the age to run after a hyperactive toddler every day, wants to dedicate time to herself. I reminded her once again that they promised to help us with the baby so that we could pay off the mortgage faster, that taking care of their granddaughter should bring them joy. Why am I now hearing nothing but excuses? I'm not refusing to help occasionally, my mom protested. I have my own interests. I'm not ready to devote myself entirely to your child. I raised my own child, and this is your child. I can take her a couple of times a week, but no more. And you should warn about such things in advance so I can plan my time. Such things in advance so I can plan my time. I didn't continue the conversation, stormed out of my mom's apartment, and went home. I was genuinely upset that they had promised help, the opportunity for me to return to work, and now they were twisting their words to suit their convenience. At home, my husband greeted me. He noticed I was upset and tried various ways to lift my spirits, but it didn't work. I was thinking about what to do now because I had to return to work in a few days or I would greatly disappoint my superiors. My husband called his mom, but apparently during my pregnancy, our moms had become such good friends that their responses were practically identical. My husband was allowed to work remotely from home, which somewhat helped solve our problem. I returned to the office to work as I couldn't work remotely. Both of us now have a very demanding and inconvenient schedule. My husband spends time with our daughter during the day and works at night, while I'm at work during the day and pick up the little one in the evening, to give my husband some time to rest. We don't ask for help from the grandmas. We are deeply hurt by their actions. It should have followed my original plan and relied only on ourselves. So, here's the story about how my friend asked me to rent out an apartment to her son. Now, I've got neither the friend nor the money. Tough break. Hey there, folks. So, I inherited this apartment from my grandma, and I decided to rent it out. Found tenants pretty quickly. At first, it was two college girls. They kept the place clean, paid on time, and didn't cause any issues with neighbors. I was thrilled with such tenants, but they moved out after 2 years. I did a bit of renovation, then started looking for new tenants. Soon, a friend I've known for over 10 years called. Turns out her son wanted to rent a place in this area. I agreed to rent him the apartment, happy that it would be someone I know. Met the young guy, aged 21, 25, showed him the place. Despite his polite demeanor, something felt off, like he was doing me a favor. We quickly agreed on the lease. I got the payment for the first month and I handed him the keys. We planned to sign the lease within a week. I wasn't in a rush or worried since he wasn't a stranger. Weeks passed and we couldn't meet up. My mom fell ill and I had to leave the city for a month. When I returned, I started calling my tenant. He was supposed to transfer the monthly rent to my account, but there was no payment. Both my tenant and my friend wouldn't answer the phone. I grabbed my set of keys and went there. Met a neighbor who had a list of complaints. It was embarrassing to hear. She complained about the constant noise, loud music at night, and the mess in the building. Even the police stopped responding to their calls. I rushed to the door, knocked, but no one answered. No response to phone calls either. I had to use my keys to open the door. The stench of alcohol hit me immediately. The apartment was a mess, and I felt like crying. The tenant stumbled out of the room, barely standing, shouting at me to leave and almost hitting me. I ran outside and called the police. Thankfully, we hadn't signed the lease yet. The police arrived quickly. I provided all the documents and explained the situation. The young guy even tried to attack the police, and they took him away. I informed my friend about everything, and she called me screaming, called me a scammer for taking money for rent and then involving her son with the police, threatened with taxes and court. I told her I'd pay any fines, but that I'd also take them to court for turning the place into a pigsty. She hung up. My brother supervised while the young guy collected his things. I didn't even want to go there. The apartment will need renovations again. I didn't get paid for the rent, lost a friend, and now have to invest in the apartment again. Tough situation.